stand right there. Right there! Let's be real civilized about this. Okay. That's fine. Now, I don't want to have to hurt you. All I'm going to do is slip these cuffs on. And no funny stuff. I know how to use this. Garbage day! Huh? No! We'll do it live! Fuck it!
That's right. We have a drop machine now. We're back, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is the original weekly podcast about consumption. With me this week, I'm John, and with me this week is Sean. He's the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. Sean, how are you doing today?
Amazing. Everything
Good.
worked.
That's what she said. Sorry, you set me up for it. Anyway, more importantly, we have a guest this week. With us this week is Boomer. He represents the amazing podcast in the Woods. Boomer, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I got off work just a little bit ago, had some Chipotle, poured me a whiskey, and I am ready to go.
Sounds like a fantastic evening. I'm glad to hear that. So, Boomer, this is your first time being on the show, so I want to ask you, why don't you tell us a little bit about Podcasts in the Woods before we get into the usual spiel that we do on this excuse for a podcast?
Okay, yeah, so Podcast in the Woods, as I affectionately like to call it, it is our little shit show. I run it with my wonderful and amazing co-host, Gabby, and it's, the point of that whole show is just to have a lot of fun. The other point of that show is to subject Gabby to as much shit as I could possibly find. So we cover all kinds of things from, new blockbusters to a lot of schlock. And the main thing is drinks and fun with Podcast in the Woods.
So one of the things that I really enjoy about your show is you do a lot of similar stuff like we do. We try to hit newer movies. We try to hit stuff that's better, but you also go and find those dregs of the cinema world at the same time. And there's very few things that are more entertaining than listening to Gabby just be livid that you subjected her to watch some of the things that she's had to watch. So, and she gives it back so that it works out, but it's definitely an entertaining dichotomy that you two have.
Oh yeah. We definitely have. Obviously, there are things that we agree on, things that we both love, but we have vastly different takes a lot of times. And yeah, it's this back and forth of picking things that the other one probably is not going to like, unless we're just feeling real nice that week and we cover something like Hellraiser, which is universal good.
Sure.
I
guess. I mean, if you're talking about the first one, it's like universal. Once you
Yeah,
get past the first one, it's certainly questionable. So
no, yeah, I'm not talking about any of those shitty sequels.
right. Well, okay. Well, so now that we're a little bit into that, let's go through our normal rigmarole, whatever we call that. So, Sean, what have you been watching this week? I know it's only been a couple days since we talked last.
It's easy for you to say. I really haven't had a whole lot of chance to watch much of anything. The only thing I really caught up on was the newest Dark Side of the Ring that came out. By the time this airs, who knows when it came out, but it was Abdullah the Butcher, which I never saw him. He was never in WWE, so I didn't have a whole lot of, insight into him. The only experience I ever had was going to the store and seeing those like wrestling magazines on the shelf, and he'd be on the cover or inside cutting somebody up. And it was an interesting kind of Dark Side of the Ring because I don't know, he didn't seem, people seemed like they liked him, but they didn't. A lot of people didn't like him. He seemed to cut people a lot, hence the Butcher. Carried a fork, stabbed people in the head with forks, raked it over their scars or their cuts and stuff. Seemed like a nice guy.
I have no problem with any of that. I mean, you're not getting paid to go out there and not get stabbed with a fork. What are you going to do, right? So
they showed these clips where they put those like the ends of the razor blades taped to their fingers, and he would like poke somebody like 10 times. He'd do it to himself and like just smear it, but he would poke people and they wouldn't necessarily be cool with it. So it was interesting cat.
I'm so far behind on that show that I don't know when I'll catch up, but I get distracted by other shit. So before I get into the garbage that I watch, go ahead.
It's been kind of borderline this season. A lot of kind of under the radar guys that you might not know about. So it's not, I feel like they're kind of running out of ideas. We'll see.
It happens. So Boomer, you probably haven't, you haven't done this with us. So go ahead and unload. What's some stuff that you've been watching lately?
Okay. So I know that you follow me on Twitter, so you kind of are abreast of the situation. But for those that don't know, I'm trying to watch 365 horror movies that I've never seen before this year, and so I am like packing my schedule with as much stuff as I possibly can. I'm not going to go through all that. I'll just touch on a couple of them. I had to take a break from all the sharkiness that I was doing. I'm like, I've got to fucking watch something else.
Sharkula broke him. So.
No, actually, that one was fine. It was Virus Shark before that when I was like, I can't handle any more of this. But just a couple I'll highlight. Afterlife is one that I just watched, and it has Liam Neeson, Christina Ricci, and Justin Long. And I've never heard anybody talking about that movie before, and it didn't get very good reviews, but I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a slow burn mystery type horror movie, and it's really, really interesting. Again, the performances in that movie are just absolutely incredible. Academy Award winner, Liam Neeson is the crazy, maybe not crazy, funeral director, and so it's really, really interesting, the twists and turns that movie takes. Again, it's not highly rated, but I would recommend it. It's not a long watch. I think it's about an hour and a half. And the other one that I will, because this is kind of, you wouldn't associate probably this movie with me, but I took my kids to go see Barbie. I think that was, when was that? Was that Sunday? No, that was Saturday. So we went and watched.
I tried convincing like 4 groups of guys to go see Barbie. So you're not alone. I didn't make it though. So
I really enjoyed that movie. I was laughing my ass off, especially it does kind of meander a little bit in the middle. It's almost 2 hours long. So again, it's probably a bit too long. And I think that's what I dinged the movie on, but it's really, really funny. I had a great time. And, I have one who's 15, another is 11. And I mean, that's their fucking favorite movie of all time now. So they adored it. So, I mean, if you have kids, there is definitely some humor in there that is not for the kids. And it's funny. I know I'm talking long. I'm going to wrap this up with this.
You're good.
there's that part of the movie when it's a kind of it's a little risque joke, for the younger kids. And I asked my oldest, who was 15, I'm like, so what was your favorite part? And she went straight to that part. I was like, you are my child.
So is Barbie aimed at being a kids movie, or is it aimed at a more mature audience?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
It's PG-13.
Is it? Okay. I would have
Yeah.
assumed it was a kids movie, and hearing, because you were talking about Spider-Man a couple weeks back, where that was like 2.5 hours long, and I don't get why Hollywood thinks that kids need 2+ hour movies. That I don't have that kind of attention span as an adult. I can't imagine most kids do.
I think the secret is that a lot of these movies aren't kids' movies.
Uh,
I mean, it's all nostalgia, right?
yeah, that's true. So, Boomer, you got anything else you want to add that you've been watching?
No, that's really about it. I have a slew of movies that are like 3-star. That's kind of like that's fine. So I mean, who cares about those?
Hey, Boomer, you've
I do,
been watching
so.
a movie. You said a movie every day, a horror movie every day.
Sometimes like it just depends. Like there's times when I
365.
watch like 4 movies in a day. I'm like I don't
okay.
have anything to do. Or I do have something to do, but I don't feel like doing it. So I'm going to watch 4 movies today.
What are some of the ones that you uncovered that you were like not thinking that they'd be good, but you were really surprised by how good they were?
So I just put one out today, and that was I believe it was today. It was either today or yesterday. But The Brain was insane. It's this like 1980s like creature feature movie with David Gale, I believe, is the actor. And I had no idea he was in it, but he is. Every time that David Gale pops up in a movie, I'm fucking sold because he's always so like ridiculous and over the top. He's one of those actors that like literally is just eating the scenery. And I mean, he's doing it again in this one, playing this mad doctor, which is a perfect role for him. He's probably played a mad doctor in like 3 or 4 of his other films. I mean, The Brain was fantastic. Sharkula was actually really entertaining. I really had
when you posted that you put we're watching The Brain, I was like, I don't know what this is, but it looks ridiculous and entertaining. So
yeah, I mean it was it was a lot of fun. One that I gave it a low rating, but like the ending almost it was a weird film because the ending was so smart and funny that it almost made up for everything. And that's Pool Party Massacre on Screambox. Like 3/4 of that movie just pissed me off, and the characters I absolutely hated. But the ending was like just so hilarious that it kind of like makes up for the entire film. And then like when you guys did Maniac Cop, I'd never seen Maniac Cop before. Like I've got to watch this. I've got to watch this movie. 1, because Dewey Podmonster's covering the fucking movie, so I gotta check this out. But 2, I mean, it's like a classic, a Bill Lustig film. So I mean, you kind of have to see it. And so I really enjoyed that one as well.
it's definitely a classic is a good word to describe it, especially for the stunts. That's what really blew both of us away with that movie. So
the on the edge of dying stunt person people.
They launched the guy off the truck.
That was great. That was my favorite part.
Well, I did not watch anything even close to being Oscar nominated or anyone who would associate with the Academy Awards. I watched a movie on Tubi called Big Fucking Snake. And spoiler alert, they basically just Photoshop a snake on top of Avenger Tower and knock the A off of it. And the rest of the time, it's just a lot of close-ups on a snake, like a digital snake slithering poorly. It's not a good movie. But it's short and it's free. So, that's a movie you could watch if you want, but I wouldn't recommend that. Then kind of more interesting, but also not a great movie on Tubi. I watched The Prey this week, which they kind of advertise it as like a 1980s camp slasher. Have you seen this, Sean? You're shaking your head.
No, I haven't seen it.
I know Boomer has, but it's one of those movies, like they call it a camp slasher. It's really more like a monster movie, but it doesn't do any of the things that you want it to do right. And it's kind of like this mongoloid that's the killer in the movie, just like had sex with a nature tape and spliced it into his own film. It's not great.
You're selling it.
Like there's 5-minute cutaways to like ants eating for some reason.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's like
sounds-
it's kind
sounds
of
amazing.
like, you know, your crazy uncle recorded like this stupid slasher onto, you know, somebody's nature documentary, and it just kind of got spliced together.
Yeah, but it does have a killer poster, so that's why I hit play on it. And I have moderate. I mean, I fell asleep 30 minutes into it and had to finish it the next day, so that speaks volumes as to how good it is.
That sounds like some of those like Godfrey Ho movies where he filmed 5 movies at once and they used all the same casts and just put them in different costumes and they splice them together and they make 20 different movies out of it.
Okay, hold on here. So Sam over from Feature Creatures TTF is referring to The Brain, I believe, and he says this movie stars John Holmes. Is that accurate?
No, I think he means the snake. Or whatever he said, big fucking snake or...
Oh, okay. I'm dumb. So, all right. Well, speaking of me being dumb, let's go ahead and move right along into the topic of this episode. So, if you paid attention to the title card or if you quick play on this episode, you probably know that we were talking about the movie Intruder, which this is a 1989 slasher movie. It is actually a slasher movie. It's brought to you by the same creative team behind the likes of Evil Dead. It is one of their movies when they started making Super 8 films that it was originally shot and called Night Shift, which personally I think is a better title than what this is. The stock footage or the Super 8 footage essentially disappeared, but several years into their run of doing Evil Dead movies, Full Moon decided they were going to create a movie studio, and this is one of, it might be the first movie that Full Moon actually greenlit and produced to have made into a fully length film. So we always start our movies with third-party reviews, and I'm going to read 2 because I think both these reviews, although they're rated different, kind of sum up a lot of this movie without ruining it at the same time. So Steve D gives this movie 2 stars. He simply says, slow-moving, dim-witted slasher with nothing to add to the formula. Fair. Unknown anonymous person says that it's your classic 80s horror film that delivers as an 80s horror movie should. I kind of feel like both these people hit. One of them gave it 4.5. One of them gave it 2 stars.
We're going out of 5 there?
Yeah, they got out of 5 on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. So, Sean, what's the plot of this movie about?
Well, I'm going to go to the storyline.
Or the storyline.
Care of Ed Sutton at mindspring.com. The ex-boyfriend of a checkout girl at a supermarket returns at closing time to make trouble. They quarrel, and the boyfriend is ejected from the store. After they lock the building up to take inventory, the employees start dying off, and the survivors must eventually find a way to escape with their lives.
That sounds about right. So, Boomer, why don't you kick us off? What do you like? This actually, to go back, this was a movie that you recommended for us when we were, well, we always take recommendations for the show, but you recommended us doing this episode. And then I figured this would be a great opportunity to bring you on because obviously you like this movie. So tell us why you recommended this movie to us and give us some, kick us off with some opening thoughts on this one.
Okay, well, let's get this straight. I love this movie. So I stumbled across this one a few years ago. I don't remember the exact time, but I've seen it so many times in the intervening period. You're right. Like whoever wrote that review is right. This adds absolutely nothing new to the slasher genre. And it's funny because like the little clip that you guys were showing at the very beginning makes a lot of sense. It's pretty apt for this. It's garbage day, but you know what? One man's trash is another man's treasure. And I love this movie. It is so much fun. Like the practical effects in this are fantastic. I'm not because I know we're probably gonna get into a lot of these things, but it's ridiculous. It's hilarious at times. The characters are really, really stupid. but not in like an annoying way, in like a way that just kind of like makes you chuckle. Like the writing and some of the lines in this are completely and utterly ridiculous. And one of the things that sold me on it was like, so the first two kills that are in this movie are kind of cut away. Well, okay, one's a false kill, but the first two, you know, whatever you call it, in quotations, kills in this are like cutaway kills. So you get your first character and she's about to get stabbed up, and it cuts to like a watermelon. And then the next kill, what you think is a kill, somebody gets hit in the head with a hammer, and it cuts away. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like this movie poster promised me gore and ridiculousness, and it's funny, but what the hell's going on? And then after that, this movie ramps up like crazy. Like the pacing on this is insane. And it's just, after that, it's gory as hell and just kill. And it's so much fun.
I'm interested because depending on which poster you saw, like half the posters actually put the killer right up in front of you.
Yep.
And some of them don't. Can I ask which poster you saw first for those?
So I did. I saw the one that is a complete spoiler and just tells you who the killer is. But you got to understand that I'm really stupid, and I did not pick up on that.
Okay, well, that happens. Did you see the trailer before seeing this by chance?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch the trailer at all. I went in. I saw that poster, and again, I'm not paying attention, but there's a head on the table. And I'm like, well, this movie's for me. I don't need to see a fucking trailer. Right? Let's do this, you know? So,
well, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I already have something kind of getting put together that has the trailer for when this comes out on like promo time for it, but he's in the trailer too. So you're seeing, it's kind of interesting. Like this movie takes a lot of steps to try to throw you off the path of who the killer is in the movie. They really try to make you think that, you know, dirtbag, like overgrown Corey Feldman is the killer of this movie. But if you watch the trailer, he, you know, you got Jake or whatever from Evil Dead 2. He's front and center as the killer by the end of the trailer, which is kind of interesting. Interesting way to kind of prop up a slasher movie.
Yeah, spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, well, I guess we should have said that.
I didn't watch the trailer until after, and I have never seen this movie before. Watching it this week, and I read something, and it was like, "Oh, the trailer, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Well, I have to watch a trailer now." And yeah, totally. I was like, "Okay, well, it's kind of trying to throw you for a loop a little bit," and then I get to the end, and they pretty much show everything. You know, by the time you finish it off, I was kind of surprised.
Sean, so you this is the first time you've seen this, and I know why this is the first time you've seen this, but what did you think of this going in, like? I feel like a lot of times when I hype a movie up for you, it falls flat. So I'm interested to know where you're at with this, if I let you down again, or how you felt on like a first viewing of this one.
Well, it kind of goes back to the poster. Looking at it and seeing the poster that I saw is the one with like the head that's twisted and the arm that's cut. And I didn't notice the killer's face like on the actual picture itself.
Yeah, you and me, Sean.
I didn't really have a lot of expectations going into it at all. I try not to, you know, read anything about it, tried to see anything, read anything, whatever, and just went into it. And the thing that really struck me is that they loved those like gimmicky angles throughout this entire movie. There's shooting through the jars, shooting through the fence, the broom sweeping the floor, and the camera shooting through that. The watermelon that Boomer mentioned during that first kill, the watermelon gets chopped. This is like, how many gimmick shots can we fit into this movie for the hour and a half or whatever it was? So I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect that. Not that I didn't expect to like it, but I just didn't know anything about it. So it was like, okay, well, I'll go in with this, you know, with open, no expectations, I guess, like an open mind.
So this was in the video store aisle for me, and the first poster I saw of it was the black and red, like very like early 90s we don't call them horror movies. We call them like suspense movies or, whatever anymore type posters.
Yeah.
But when I flipped it over on the back, the head that was in the beer cooler was one of the pictures on there. I was like, well, you're going home with now. So I found this one quite a while ago, and it's always been one of those, weird movies because I feel like it's a really strong movie, and like our anonymous reviewer and Boomer said, it really doesn't add a ton to the slasher genre, but holy shit, it's a fun movie. When it does pick up and start going, you basically waste half the cast within about 20 minutes. And then once you get to the third act, I do feel like the third act might drag on maybe about 5 minutes too long. Like, I think there's several spots they could have kind of tightened some stuff up to get it to move a little bit better. But once you get, essentially the entire cast of Evil Dead 1 and 2 all killed, it's just this chase scene for the rest of the movie. And you kind of know where it's going to go up until the very last scene, but it's still entertaining the whole time.
I just wondered the whole time, how do you hide in a grocery store? Like, the aisles are pretty much up and down. I mean, there's so many different sections of this specific grocery store. But I'm like, really? Like, they're just running through the aisles. It's just a straight back and forth. But
I do want to make a statement, since I've mentioned coming up to this that the store that this was takes place in is close to here. Kind of misspoke on that. I didn't know that till I was looking a little more into this. The name of the store, Walnut Lake Market, is something that is close to here, and it is actually a store that the director Scott Spiegel worked in at one point, which is now a hardware store. The actual filming of this was done in a warehouse in California, so it's refitted to look like the store that was in Michigan.
You really let me down. I'm
totally
totally expecting to be able to drive to it. And at the end, they had the thing in the credit, and it was like, special thanks to such and such California. And I was like, wait a second. Was this filmed in Michigan, or was it filmed in California? But I did like all the references, all the local references.
When What's-Her-Face goes and calls the cops and rattles off the address, that's the correct address. Like, that is spot to spot the exact, like, location. It still pulls up. Like I said, it's an Ace Hardware store now. So
you've redeemed yourself.
Yeah, maybe. So sure, I'll fuck up again soon enough. So, Boomer, is there anything you don't like about this movie?
Honestly, there really isn't. This is like one of those movies that is kind of a perfect mess, a perfect good for me. Another one that I would give you an example that would honestly make it a fantastic double feature with this one is Pieces. And like, both of these movies have things that are not good in them, but all of those kind of work for me in like just the most like joyous, fantastic way. Like, even when you're talking about that ending where, yes, it could have like easily dragged for me, because that's like a easily like what, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
At least. Yeah.
And normally, like, that kind of stuff starts boring me after a while. Like, it doesn't matter how exciting that final chase is. If it goes on too long, I'm just like, God, just fucking kill them already. But in this one, there's so much silliness that it just keeps me engaged in it. Like, speaking of hiding in the grocery store, like you brought up, Sean, our killer has the stereotypical like teleportation powers, because there's like one point when he's chasing her and then she goes to the door and he just like flies against the door and starts killing somebody outside somehow. Like, I mean, he either sprinted his ass off like around this store, or he's just teleporting around it. And there's like just the ridiculous thing where he's carrying the head and like reenacting his dumbass story that he told. Like, there's this like random story that this person tells in this movie, and you're like, why is this in here? And then it like, I don't know if they thought they were being clever, but it does come like full circle at the end of this movie. He's got a sandwich in one head and one hand and a head in the other. Like,
it's also a magic sandwich, because before he starts eating the sandwich and swinging the head, he doesn't have a sandwich in that hand. He has a knife that he catches with it. So the sandwich appears out. Well, I mean, he's a grocery store. You theoretically can pull it from anywhere, but he doesn't have it and he doesn't. It's not obvious where it comes from. It just appears.
Yeah, I recognize that there are things that are not right with this film, and if anybody wants to ding those, I will not be upset about that, because I understand that this movie is nowhere near a perfect film, but it just works for me. Like even how we talked about Craig, who they try to set up as like the reddest red herring of all time, it makes me laugh like every single time, every time they show him and it just plays that music, like this is the guy, I swear, I promise, we're it's just so it's amazing to me.
I really like that the movie starts off being this almost a teen comedy a little bit, and then it transforms. I mean, you get the boyfriend right away. That's kind of like you said, the red herring, but I just kind of like that they build all this camaraderie up in those first 20 minutes or whatever, and then the killing starts, and that goes so quick. It's like it's a really well-defined 3-act structure of this movie. The beginning part just really reminded me of just a lot of. It seems earlier 80s than it actually is, I think.
Yeah, it really does have that feel of an earlier 80s movie, and I if I had to guess, that probably comes to the fact that the original, like, I don't know if you want to call this test footage, or the original like shoot of this was done before Evil Dead, like not even before Evil Dead. So Evil Dead was it Within the Woods or whatever they did for their test reel that they did before they made Evil Dead, where they just shot on Super 8, or maybe it's called Book of the Dead. I can't. Boomer, you should know this. You're an Evil Dead fanatic. The original title for it.
Yeah, it's so no. Yeah, you put me on the spot. God damn it.
Sorry.
Boomer, justify your love. No.
By no means.
You're
but
out of
anyway.
the club.
Yeah. He's not a real fan. We figured him out.
Yeah, so this movie was shot like initially, or the original version of this was shot. Was the original Evil Dead, I think, like 81? So this was probably shot in the 70s, like late 70s originally, and then they probably just. Essentially what they did is they just took the same story and kind of added a budget and redid it. So it's very Evil Dead 2 like, in that sense that or Evil Dead 1 for that matter, where they fixed a lot of the things that they couldn't do because they were working like as 4 kids with a handy cam, running around in the woods. So past that,
Great.
So this is what you get with the live, is you get these weird like brain farts and like pauses that we will probably cut out. So or not.
Never happens when we just record it.
No, not at all. He's gonna leave them in now, so I sound like a dick.
Nah, I wouldn't do that.
How do you guys feel about the cast in this? Because, well, I'm interested how you feel about it before I go on about it.
Why don't you just tell us what you think?
I think Ted Raimi is a fucking like national treasure. Ted Raimi, he won't ever get an Oscar for this, but his lack of knife skills while carving a watermelon and whatever that like 80s jingle is that he's bopping around to with those aviator glasses, you could make like a 10-minute sizzle reel of just that, and I would be 100% content and call it like a 5-star movie out of 5.
I love when he gets knocked out of the movie and they play the song on his Walkman, but it's slowed down and all warped. It sounds like some, I don't know, vaporwave or something you could play now. Just put a different drum beat over it, and it would be perfect. I love when Sam Raimi gets thrown into that Pepsi display. That was like the laugh out loud moment for me for whatever reason. I have no idea, but it was just like, she just gets blown into this thing that's everywhere.
I did like how even after Sam Raimi's killed, that he keeps popping back up. Like, I think he pops up like 3 times to either interfere with another kill or to get in the way and freak someone out. And he's always, I'm not a doctor, but I kind of think like if you were just hooked in a mouth like that, you'd probably die eventually, but I don't think it'd be like an instantaneous death. And if you look closely, he almost kind of wiggles around a little bit,
Still got some function there.
Just a little bit
around.
So, I mean, we're kind of on it. So what are some of our favorite kills in this other than the 2 that we've already mentioned?
I like the bandsaw scene in the butchery whatever you call that, the cooler. I thought that was really like that, and the compressor at the end. Well, I think that's probably the one right before it. That trash compactor is like you could tell they spent a lot of time doing those effects. Well, they're not like super amazing effects. They were really effective. I think actually the Saw one was
Greg and Guitaro, so
yeah. I mean, I thought that the Saw one was like really impressive because the guy, he screams up until they're like halfway through, and the way that they shoot it, it's really well done. It's really well put together. It's hard to tell. I mean, obviously it's special effects, but they hide it really well.
Boomer?
Yep. I think my favorite is the guy that gets stabbed in front of the beer brand beer.
Yep.
I mean that always makes me chuckle, but not only that, but when he holds the knife up, it's a certain length, and then he stabs him, and it's not even all the way in him, but it stabs all the way through him and into the beer that just sprays all over the place. So it's like this magic. Lots of magic in this movie, this magic growing knife. And it just makes me chuckle. I mean, it's not the most impressive kill as far as effects or anything. But it's really, really good. And I knew I one of the things that kind of sold me on this, like, as far as like recommended to y'all, because I know you guys are wrestling fans, is that first fight scene is basically like a regional wrestling match type thing, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun, and it goes on like forever.
They're just trading blows constantly back and forth. Bill was actually my favorite when he goes up that ladder and it's dark and he says, "There's a whole lot of darkness up here," and he falls off the ladder. I was like, this guy's great. Then I was sad when he got hit with the hammer, and then I was sad at the end.
See, I really like Bill for two reasons. One, he beats the shit out of Craig with a severed head, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And that's the scene that goes on a little, like, he gets 6 or 7 blows in there where you probably could have done that with 2 and got the same point across. But I like that they didn't go that route. They just let him keep hitting him with it. But equally entertaining, although this isn't technically a kill, I like when he's staggering around outside at the end and Craig comes and knifes him. Or no, Craig doesn't do it. Jennifer does it. She comes out from under the car, sticks him with the knife in the chest. I like that he falls down and the knife shoots up in the air, does a flip, and lands back down and makes a really like Looney Tunes sound effect right next to his body. For him to get back up and be, to get back up and have the strength to flip over a telephone booth, which I don't. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've been in a telephone booth, but I don't get the impression that someone with a stab wound to the chest is going to just flip it over like, the Hulk without a problem.
Or that they tip over like porta potties.
Well, it also has wheels on the bottom of it, so that might have helped. So,
I love the beating with the once sharpest meat cleaver, now the dullest meat cleaver of all time. Just gets the shit beat out of him with it. It's like, I think, what happened to this thing?
There's a lot of meat cleavers just hanging around that store too, or at least that's the impression I got, is that there were quite a few of them that, because they seem to like magically appear both in the front of this, like they make sense in the meat department. Past that, where do you need a meat cleaver in a grocery store?
Opening boxes.
That's what the box cutter's for.
No. Cleaver.
No.
I've worked in a grocery store. We used meat cleavers for all that.
I like the way you roll. So,
yeah.
Is there anything else we want to really add on this? I mean, we're kind of running through this quickly, but this is a movie that's kind of the beauty of this movie is it is only an hour and a half, but it's a quick in and out. Like, you don't have to overthink it. Is there anything we want to kind of touch on before we start kind of giving some closing thoughts on this one?
Opening the hot dog package.
I mean,
well, we didn't get into how progressive this film actually is with the depiction of police brutality at the end from Bruce Campbell.
Oh, that's Detroit. We're used to that. So,
I love how it has on the the top of the poster, when you normally have your highest billed actors, it's Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. Yeah, it's like they're in it for probably a grand total of 5 to 10 minutes of the movie.
I mean, I could almost buy you putting Sam Raimi on the poster somewhere because he's at least a character in the movie. I mean, Bruce Campbell's barely a character in this movie. In fact, Sean, you were saying that that was something that you kind of steered clear of because of Bruce Campbell. I was like, you blink and you miss him in this movie.
I feel like you're kind of putting words in my mouth, but I was kind of expecting him to definitely be in there for more than the 15 seconds that he's in it. Considering, like Boomer said, you see the poster and he's on the top. He's like Bruce Campbell. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, Bruce Campbell's in this movie. I don't hate Bruce Campbell. I think we covered this in the just wanted to put it out there in the Maniac Cop episode. I think I kind of gave my stance on Bruce Campbell.
I don't think you did, but that's fine.
Well, just, it's more the Bruce Campbell, Bruce Campbell
character.
Yeah. Rather than
Bruce Campbell, the Bruce Campbell character, not Bruce Campbell, the actor, necessarily.
Right. Never saw the guy in a white t-shirt and jeans before that. So, and this is the first time I think I've seen him in a cop uniform.
I don't think I've seen him in a cop uniform since that, but I could be wrong. Well, meaning a cop, obviously, but that would have been.
Oh yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was a cop.
Okay, well, that point was shot in the face. So,
thanks for that, John. Jeez, kill the illusion.
Boomer, you got anything you want to add on before we kind of start rapping about this particular title?
No. I mean, I could talk about this all night, so you don't put that out there. Don't put the carrot out there. We can go ahead and get into the ratings.
You can talk about this as long as you want. That's why we brought you on there. We won't stop you. So,
okay. One other thing I have to mention. I love how oblivious every single character in this movie is. I mean, there's a scene where a guy goes into like a stall. And there's like these severed feet in these shoes. And he's like, who's messing with the pig feet again? Like, first of all, it looks nothing like pig feet. And what kind of messed up pranks are these people like playing on one another? Where it's just like, oh, that Rick, you know how he is.
I like it. So
I didn't understand how a lot of the things in here, like they would show, I don't know, that there's a scene where the body is split in two. Half of it's in one garbage can or a drum or whatever, and the other half is in the other part of the garbage can. These cuts are the worst cuts of all. The body, like where they cut the body, they butcher these people. They're just the most jagged cuts of all time. Like, all right, cool. You got some really precise tools here. Just kind of something I noticed. Everything looked like a prop.
I mean, a meat cleaver isn't exactly a slicey tool, so
it's more choppy.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm cutting that part out. It wasn't fun. Nobody laughed. Fuck you guys.
I kind of hope you cut it so all you say is "fuck you guys" and then we start.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have a whole lot to add other than like when I go on a spiel here in a minute. So Sean, do you want to kick us off with how you feel about this movie and hot dogs and all that stuff?
Jeez, no pressure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I enjoyed the first half of the movie more because, like I said, it kind of feeds into that teen 80s comedy feel. I mean, it's comedic, but it's got the whole save the store kind of vibe to it. Save the community center type stuff. You can really tell that these actors, the characters, they have good chemistry. It seems like they actually know each other rather than just because this is a pretty young cast for the most part. It's just a bunch of night crew teens working together. They all have these little cliques. They have these little love triangles going on. The second half of the movie is a little slower. Once you get past the killing, the movie really starts to slow down. It adopts some of those things that you think about to be like slasher vibes. It starts to kind of get into the methodical kind of stalking of these different characters. Like I said, you see these different angles where you're seeing, and they explain all the angles too. It's like, oh, I was looking through the fence and I saw him do this. It's like just they account for all that stuff. It has that added mystery of who the real killer is, as opposed to you think it's Craig for that whole time, but that last 30 minutes does really slow down a lot. Overall, I thought it was a really fun watch. For us specifically, had a little bit of local flair. Like I could actually Google map where the location was and be like, oh yeah, that's where that is. I didn't know that's where that was. I just thought it was a fun movie. All overall, I'd give it 6 of the dullest meat cleavers out of 11 hot dogs.
Okay, Boomer, how do you feel about this movie?
Okay, I think I've already established my love for this film. Again, though, it's not one that I would just recommend to somebody saying, "Hey, you don't like horror? This is one that will get you into it." This is kind of for the initiated. This is not going to win anybody over.
I always use Nail Gun Massacre for that, but no one seems to agree with me.
So I could see why somebody wouldn't like this film, but for me, it's just a perfect joy. This is one of those rainy Sunday movies when you can't do anything else. So why not order a pizza, drink some beer, and put this movie on and have a good time? I will give this movie because of kind of that dichotomy there. I'm going to give this movie an abusive boyfriend, crazy asshole turned hero out of 11 hot dogs, and just say I love it.
I like it. So this movie for me is a solid, what am I going to call this? A solid 8 severed head sandwiches out of 10 hot dogs every day of the week. I love the cast in this movie. It's kind of, as everyone here knows, I'm a big Evil Dead fan as well. So this movie, the writing in this movie, the way these characters play out, this movie not only plays like this is a movie that you would get if you asked the guys who made Evil Dead to make a straight slasher movie. And that's exactly what this is. There's characters that I like to see that I wouldn't necessarily call them like B actors at this point, but whenever I see Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi, and the likes pop up in a movie, I don't care what it is, you almost get like an extra point or two just from that. It's got kills and gore that kind of make you feel all those kind of happy slasher vibes exactly the way you want it. And it's got just the right amount of schlock where, you're watching your killer chase a girl through a store and he sees 2 rolls of paper towel on the ground. So he stops, picks them up, and proceeds to go chasing after the girl. It's not a perfect movie. There's things that, like I said, I, as a person who can't stand long movies, I would tighten up several things in a few places. The scene where she's in like the popcorn stand and is almost like 2 minutes too long for me. Like I feel like that could have been like a 30-second clip, but we got what we got. The other thing that I think really speaks strong to this movie in a weird way is there's no sequels to this. This is not a franchise. This is not something that's been bought by Blumhouse yet to get a Rob Zombie remake of. This is just a one-off slasher movie that hits all those nostalgic vibes, and that is something that is increasingly hard to find. Even your movies like, we've talked about a little bit about the movie like Maniac, which was for a long time a one-off movie, and now we have an Elijah Wood version of Maniac, which I still can't bring myself to watch. There's so many of them that you would thought, or at least I thought for the longest time, like they'll never make another one of these. I guarantee you we'll get new Sleepaway Camp movies by the time this writer's strike is done. I know there's 4 of them. But that's where we are as a horror genre. So this is kind of one of those weird, unique little gems that's just untouched and unpolished, and I kind of love it for that as much as anything else with it.
It's not just horror that we're getting endless sequels of, so
well,
don't
that's true.
Don't claim a monopoly on that one.
That's fair. Well, I can't claim a monopoly, but that's just a fucking game.
When's the new John Wick 5 Return of the Dead coming out?
Exactly. So, all right. We did do a question of the week. Do we want to touch any more on this movie, or do we want to get into what other people are talking about as it relates to this movie?
Let's hear what people had to say.
All right. So our question of the week this week for this episode is, what is your favorite job from your teens or 20s and why? I added the and why because I didn't just want a bunch of people saying that they worked at like a gas station or whatever.
I worked at a gas station. That's all they say. Hey, cool.
Great.
That's amazing. Thanks for letting us know.
So first response we got was from Taproom Tabby, who is at Taproom Tab. She is on the Grace Taproom podcast, which I'll be guesting on this week, so keep an eye out for that. But she said that the 2 jobs she enjoyed in her 20s was working in a pet shop and being the manager of a haunted house. That didn't pay shit, but she spent most of her 20s in one. I can only imagine if you like spooky stuff and you got the opportunity to work in a haunted house, that's, aside from the likely bad pay, that's got to be something of a dream job. So
I love scaring people. It sounds like a perfect job.
I don't think the manager's the one scaring people, but
Hey,
I like it.
They get carte blanche to scare everybody.
Do they?
Yeah, I mean, they're in charge of it. They're the manager.
Ebony061, who is the host of the Film Spark podcast, said she was an admin office all-rounder for a boat mechanic, which is interesting. It was fucking great. We worked with great people. The boat owners were lovely, and one of them flew us back in a helicopter from work to go to go-karting for a Christmas party, and her boss took her to see Bon Jovi live. She's not sure why she quit, which does sound like there was a lot of nice perks there. Shoot the flick at Shoot the Flick said, I used to edit sports highlights and it was one of my favorite jobs. I can't really argue that. The Super Slash Bros podcast at Super Slash Pod said, working at a gas station overnight right next to the bar, it was like watching UFC fights every night for free from my window. Told me it doesn't sound so bad. He said a lot of his friends were drinking there, so I just head over and join the nonsense. This might be my favorite response, though. Streaming Bubble Pod at Streaming Bubble Pod said that I peddled porn and porn accessories for at least 4 years. And what a wild time that was. Met some cool people, and they're still in my life today, like my husband. So, Sean, what's your...
a lot of different directions that could have went. So good thing it had a happy end, huh?
Sean, what was your answer for the question of the week?
I worked in a warehouse at Circuit City before Circuit City went under, when like Divx was a big deal, and it was the best. Like, we worked pretty hard, but we like fucked around a whole lot and like invented our own version of handball. We call it a warehouse ball, and it was really fun. Got to drop TVs off the highest rack. Got to put stuff in the compressor. It's just great times.
So this isn't my answer, but I unloaded trucks at Target for a while. We invented warehouse golf, which I'm guessing is probably similar to warehouse handball. So,
well, I don't know. This was like a little bit of racquetball, volleyball. It was a blast.
This was like putt-putt, but instead of using putters, we used hockey sticks because there were no putters. There's a lot of
hockey sticks. Oh, I guess it's Target. They had hockey sticks and stuff.
They weren't good hockey sticks, but they were hockey sticks. So. Boomer, do you have an answer for the question of the week this week?
Yeah, so I've had a couple different ones when I was younger. My favorite, though, was probably working at a gas station, and that's for a number of different reasons. One, it was I worked there with a lot of my friends. The manager was one of those like older gentlemen who wanted to be cool, though, and so like during our shifts, we would drink beer and all that, have a good time, and we played a lot of pranks as well. And so we had one of the big truck stops, and whenever the truckers would come in, and no offense to any truckers, but most of the time a lot of them had those really thick Southern accents. So the truckers would come in and they had like a little phone over on the gas pump, and you'd call in to the front desk and tell them who you were and give them the truck ID number. And they would turn on the pump for you. So I would go out there like just to mess with people. Like I would go out there on the other side of a truck, and I would call in, and, so somebody would pick it up, and they'd be like, yeah, hello, how are you doing this evening? I just need your name and your company name and the truck number. I'd be like, yeah, this is Rob Joy from Schnitzelheimer Grumenhagen. And, well, who? Could you say that one more time? Yeah, this is Rob Joy from Schnitzelheimer Grumenhagen. And it just get worse and worse every time. It's stupid, but it was a lot of fun.
I like that. I feel like that would be endless entertainment, even if it's an audience of one. That's still endless entertainment. So,
as long as you keep fooling them,
right? So my answer for the question of the week this week, my first two jobs were both in different movie theaters. I think, Sean, you've already heard this, so I'm sorry. I'm probably going to bore you.
I love it.
My first one that I worked in was like a first run theater. So for people who don't know what a first run theater is, back when you were, for us old folk, there were two types of movie theaters. There were first run theaters and second run theaters that were also called dollar theaters. The first run theater that I worked in kind of sucked because I got a job there at like 16. My whole goal was to get like a Nintendo 64 or something like that, and basically worked there. And all of my buddies got jobs there, and it was fun until we all got fired one day. Went across the street where there was a Dollar Theater, which was a second run theater, and that was a much more fun job because basically after I got hired, they immediately were like, well, you've got movie theater experience. You're going to run the projectors. I was like, what? So at like 17, 18, I found myself like movies, I'm sure now they just come on like a Blu-ray or something that they pop into a projector, but at the time they came in these big like 80-pound tins, and you had to actually build them and put them together so they would run reel to reel and all that shit. I did that for like 3 years, and the only reason I quit, reasons I quit is one, a car dealership bought the theater and it turned it into a car lot, and it paid fucking terrible, but it was a lot of fun, and I got to see a lot of movies for free and get a lot of like free crap to have around the house. So
I love that you started the story by telling everybody what a first run theater was, as if most of the people listening to this aren't like our age. Got a bunch of teenagers listening. Oh, what's a first run theater, mister?
That's probably true. It's probably true. You never know. I hear a lot of 15-year-olds around the bus stop talking about Intruder. So
and Dewey Pod Monster. Hey, did you listen to that newest episode? Hey, mister.
Exactly.
Buy some beer?
No. Buy your own fucking beer. All right. So, Sean, do we got anything else we want, or do either of you have anything you want to add on before we start wrapping up on this?
No, I'm just marveling at your being the master of the segue.
It's kind of what I do. So it's kind of what I do. All right. So while I'm segueing, then Boomer, why don't you go ahead and let us know again where you can find Podcasts in the Woods. Remind everyone what Podcasts in the Woods is about, and make sure everyone knows why they should listen to your show.
Sure. So again, we are a podcast. Maybe you shouldn't listen to Podcasts in the Woods. Apparently, the good.
You went out again. Your mic's not connected.
I'm going to have an aneurysm over here. This is... Made it the whole
Maybe we should stop doing these live. We got so close.
Shit.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Oh my god.
We should really start getting phone numbers so we can text people when they start having problems.
We do have a private chat.
Do we? Oh, let's do that. See if he sees it. I like that he's still talking this entire time.
Oh boy.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, I can't. This one. There you go. He's not looking at.
The joys of doing it live.
Right. Yeah, I thought we were gonna have a short episode. He's just gonna be walking down the road with a severed head in one hand and a bottle of bourbon in the other.
Yep.
So he's typing. That's good. Oh, okay. Ah, crap. Stupid thing. Hold on. We might have to add around this anyway. Yeah, we can't hear you. Okay, so while we're dealing with technical issues, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pick up for Boomer here for a second. So, Podcasts in the Woods is a fantastic podcast. They, like Boomer said at the beginning of the show, they kind of cover the gambit of both new and older movies. They are available pretty much all over the web on social medias at Woods Podcast One. So I strongly recommend following them. If you follow us, I retweet pretty much every damn thing that they put up. So you will absolutely be able to find them. They are also available as Podcasts in the Woods on any of your standard podcasts platforms. So Spotify, Apple, etc. If you search Podcasts in the Woods, you're going to find them. Go back, listen to every single one of their episodes 2, 3, 4 times. It's worth it. Strongly recommend listening to the Dead Alive episode and trying to get an F-bomb count, because if you can, you do better than I did. I lost count. So separately from that, we have some stuff too. We are at Dewey Pod Monster on all the social medias. That's where you can interact with us and answer our question of the week, involved with the show. We post old links, new links, all kinds of good stuff, so you can always find our content and wherever we might be appearing on other things, if people are so kind to ask us. I've done a live stream with Gabby from Podcast in the Woods. It was a great time. So whenever stuff like that happens, social media is usually the best place to be aware of it. Separate from that, Sean, fill in on whatever I forgot and where people can find you.
Well, I think you mentioned it, but if you want your answer read by John on the podcast, you can answer the question of the week. It goes up every day that we record. So you answer it, you got a good chance he's going to read it. And then I can laugh at him when I edit this podcast. Other than that, if you want to, if you're interested in, we're going to try and figure out how to do some watch casts. Maybe some movies that we can't, necessarily watch on YouTube or other places. But if you're interested, let us know. We'll figure that out. And other than that, if you're interested in beer content, Michigan beer content, you can find me at youtube.drafttherapy.com. You can also follow me on social media at Draft Therapy. I probably won't respond to you, but you could follow me there. Maybe you'll be excited when I post something, but you probably won't.
So much excitement here. So, again, we have not had good track records with guests and live, so maybe we'll change the format on how to do that. But in the meantime, like I said, keep listening. We appreciate you. We'll be back soon, and have a great week. Cheers.
I think it's
Thanks everybody for watching. Oh, no shit. You want to record? You want to say your part, and I can edit it in afterwards.
No, hey, yeah, everything John said is true and correct. Nothing
classic.
but professionalism here in the woods.
It's pretty much how we usually do it at the start of the show, so you're good.
Yeah.
So
We frantically smash on our keyboards until everything works. And sometimes,
Right.
most of the time it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
all right. I think that's all we got. So we've done enough weirdness. So we will talk to you soon, and I'm going to end this fucking broadcast.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Are you sure, John?